Good evening, everyone. Today, I want to share with you a powerful way to cultivate inner peace, one that has stood the test of time. The ancient philosophy of Stoicism offers us practical strategies to navigate life's ups and downs with clarity, resilience, and a deep sense of tranquility. Many of us struggle with stress, anxiety, and frustration, but the Stoics teach us that peace is not found in external circumstances. It is cultivated within. Today, I will share key Stoic strategies to help you achieve lasting inner peace. One of the most powerful Stoic principles is learning to distinguish between what we can control and what we cannot. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, taught that most of our suffering comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. We cannot dictate how others think, how they behave, or what happens in the world around us. We cannot undo the past or predict the future with certainty. However, what we can control is our own thoughts, actions, and responses. When we focus on what is within our power, we regain a sense of stability and peace. Instead of stressing over whether someone likes us, we can focus on being the best version of ourselves. Instead of fearing failure, we can put our energy into preparation and effort. Instead of resenting the past, we can learn from it and move forward with wisdom. This shift in perspective allows us to stop wasting energy on things outside our influence and instead direct our attention to what truly matters. Accepting what we cannot control does not mean becoming passive. It means recognizing that certain things are beyond our influence and refusing to let them steal our inner peace. If it rains on the day of an important event, we cannot change the weather, but we can change our attitude and make the best of the situation. If someone treats us unfairly, we may not be able to control their behavior, but we can control our response and choose not to let their negativity affect us. By practicing this principle daily, we begin to free ourselves from unnecessary frustration and anxiety. We become calmer, more adaptable, and more resilient in the face of life's challenges. When we accept what we cannot change and take full responsibility for what we can, we reclaim our inner strength and develop a mindset that is unshakable in any circumstance. Negative visualization is one of the most powerful Stoic techniques for cultivating resilience, gratitude, and inner peace. At first it might seem counterintuitive. Why would we want to imagine negative outcomes or losses? The Stoics, however, understood that by briefly contemplating worst-case scenarios, we can prepare our minds for challenges, appreciate what we have, and reduce our fear of the unknown. Seneca, a Roman Stoic philosopher, advised people to periodically imagine losing what they value most, whether it be their possessions, status, health, or even loved ones. This is not meant to cause unnecessary distress, but to build mental preparedness. If we take a moment to reflect on how we would cope if we lost our job, faced an illness, or experienced a setback, we become less fragile when difficulties actually arise. Instead of being caught off guard, we can remind ourselves that hardships are a natural part of life and that we are capable of handling them. At the same time, negative visualization enhances our appreciation for the present. Too often, we take our relationships, comforts, and opportunities for granted, assuming they will always be there. But when we imagine, even for a moment, what life would be like without them, we become more grateful for what we have. A simple hug from a loved one, a warm meal, or even the ability to walk and breathe freely becomes something to cherish rather than overlook. This practice does not mean dwelling on negativity or expecting the worst to happen. Rather, it is about mentally preparing for life's inevitable changes so that we can face them with calmness and strength. When we train our minds this way, we reduce our tendency to panic in difficult situations and cultivate an unshakable sense of inner peace. By embracing the possibility of loss, we paradoxically learn to enjoy life more fully, with a deep appreciation for the fleeting beauty of each moment. Cultivating an attitude of gratitude is one of the most effective ways to achieve inner peace and contentment. The Stoics understood that much of human suffering comes not from what we lack, but from our failure to appreciate what we already have. Instead of constantly chasing more success, more possessions, more approval, we can find true fulfillment by recognizing the abundance in our lives. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote in his Meditations, "Do not forget how precious it is to be alive." This simple reminder speaks to the heart of Stoic gratitude. Every day we wake up is a gift. The ability to see, hear, walk, breathe, and think clearly are privileges that many do not have. Yet we often overlook these blessings because we take them for granted. By consciously shifting our focus to appreciation rather than lack, we transform our perspective and reduce feelings of frustration and dissatisfaction. Gratitude also helps us reframe challenges. When something goes wrong, instead of dwelling on what we have lost, we can recognize what we still have. If we experience financial hardship, we can be grateful for our skills, our health, or the support of friends and family. If we face a difficult situation at work, we can see it as an opportunity to develop resilience and wisdom. This shift in mindset allows us to approach life's ups and downs with a greater sense of calm and acceptance. The Stoics encouraged people to practice gratitude daily. One way to do this is by keeping a gratitude journal, writing down 3 things each day that you are thankful for. This simple practice rewires the brain to notice and appreciate the good, rather than focusing on what is missing or what could be better. Another method is to express gratitude openly, telling loved ones how much we appreciate them, or silently acknowledging the value of something as simple as a warm meal or a moment of peace. By making gratitude a habit, we develop a more positive and balanced outlook on life. We stop feeling like the world owes us something, and instead recognize that every moment, every opportunity and every relationship is a gift. This mindset frees us from unnecessary stress, comparison and dissatisfaction, replacing them with a deep and lasting sense of inner peace. Seeing obstacles as opportunities is a core Stoic principle that transforms the way we approach challenges. Instead of viewing difficulties as barriers to success or happiness, the Stoics believed that every hardship is a chance to grow, learn, and become stronger. Marcus Aurelius captured this idea perfectly when he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the very thing that seems to block our path can actually be the path forward if we choose to see it that way. In life, obstacles are inevitable. We will face setbacks, failures, and unexpected difficulties. A Stoic does not waste time complaining about these challenges or wishing they didn't exist. Instead, they ask, how can I use this situation to improve myself? What can I learn from this? When we shift our mindset from resistance to acceptance, we start to see struggles as opportunities for growth rather than burdens to endure. For example, if we lose a job, we can see it as an opportunity to develop new skills, pursue a different career path, or even start a business. If we face rejection, instead of feeling discouraged, we can use it as motivation to improve. If we experience a personal hardship, we can develop resilience, patience, and wisdom. Every difficulty contains a hidden lesson, and it is up to us to find it. This perspective also helps us develop mental toughness. When we expect life to be easy, we become frustrated when things don't go our way. But when we anticipate challenges as part of the journey, we handle them with greater strength and composure. A Stoic does not seek a life free of hardship, but rather aims to develop the mindset needed to turn difficulties into stepping stones for success. By embracing obstacles as opportunities, we move from a victim mentality to an empowered one. Instead of being paralyzed by problems, we take action. Instead of resenting difficulties, we learn from them. This shift not only makes us more resilient, but also brings a deep sense of peace, knowing that no matter what happens, we have the ability to turn adversity into advantage. Mastering your emotions through reason is one of the most valuable skills a person can develop, and it is central to Stoic philosophy. The Stoics did not believe in suppressing emotions or pretending they did not exist. Instead, they taught that emotions should be understood, examined and guided by reason. By doing this, we gain control over our reactions and cultivate inner peace, rather than being ruled by anger, fear or sadness. One of the key ideas in Stoicism is that our emotions do not come directly from external events, but from our interpretations of those events. As Epictetus said, people are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. This means that it is not what happens to us that causes distress, but how we perceive it. If someone insults us, for example, we may immediately feel hurt or angry. But is it the insult itself that causes this reaction, or our belief that the insult is important? If we reason through the situation, we may realize that the words of another person have no real power over us unless we allow them to. By taking a step back and questioning our initial emotional responses, we can prevent ourselves from being controlled by them. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can pause and ask ourselves, is this emotion justified? Is it helpful? What would my best self do in this situation? This brief moment of reflection allows reason to take control instead of raw emotion. For example, when faced with anger, a Stoic would analyze the situation calmly. Is this anger serving a purpose, or is it only harming my peace of mind? When experiencing fear, a Stoic would ask whether the fear is based on real danger or just an imagined worst-case scenario. When dealing with sadness, they would remind themselves that loss and change are natural parts of life, and that suffering is often worsened by resisting what cannot be changed. The goal is not to become emotionless, but to ensure that emotions do not cloud our judgment or lead us to act in ways we later regret. By using reason to understand our emotions, we gain control over them rather than being controlled by them. This self-mastery brings a deep sense of stability and peace, allowing us to navigate life's challenges with clarity and strength. Living with virtue as your guide is the foundation of Stoic philosophy and the key to true inner peace. The Stoics believed that external success, wealth, power, reputation was not what made a person truly happy. Instead, they taught that living a good life meant living according to virtue. In other words, peace and fulfillment come not from what we have, but from who we are and how we choose to act. The Stoics identified four main virtues that should guide every decision and action: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Wisdom is the ability to see things clearly, make rational decisions, and understand what is truly valuable in life. Courage is not just about physical bravery, but also about standing up for what is right, facing challenges with strength, and overcoming fear. Justice means treating others with fairness, kindness, and integrity. Temperance is self-discipline, the ability to control desires, resist excess, and maintain balance in all things. When we make virtue our guiding principle, we free ourselves from unnecessary stress, regret, and guilt. If we always act with integrity, we do not have to worry about the consequences of dishonesty. If we approach life with courage, we do not waste energy on fear and hesitation. If we are fair and just, we do not carry the burden of harming others or feeling resentment. If we practice self-control, we avoid destructive habits and maintain inner stability. The Stoics taught that external events are unpredictable, but virtue is always within our control. A wealthy person who lacks virtue is never truly at peace, because they are always worried about losing what they have. But a person who lives virtuously, whether rich or poor, healthy or sick, praised or criticized, always has something stable to rely on. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you seek tranquility, do less, but do what's essential." That essential thing is living in alignment with virtue. By making virtue our guide, we create a life that is not dependent on luck, status, or circumstances. Instead, we build a strong foundation of character that allows us to remain calm, confident, and at peace, no matter what happens. This is true freedom, not the ability to do whatever we want, but the ability to live in a way that we can always be proud of. Detaching from material possessions is a fundamental Stoic principle that leads to greater freedom, peace, and contentment. The Stoics did not reject wealth or comfort outright, but they warned against becoming too attached to them. They believed that true happiness comes from within, not from external things, and that relying too much on material wealth can make us vulnerable to anxiety, disappointment, and suffering. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." This idea is more relevant today than ever. Many people believe that happiness is tied to having more money, a bigger house, the latest technology, luxury items. But as soon as we get what we want, we start wanting something else. This endless cycle of desire keeps us in a state of dissatisfaction, always chasing happiness instead of experiencing it. The Stoics encouraged practicing voluntary simplicity, occasionally living with less to remind ourselves that we do not actually need much to be happy. Seneca suggested that we should sometimes eat simple meals, wear basic clothing, and live without luxuries, not because suffering is good, but because it teaches us that we can be content with little. When we do this, we stop fearing poverty or loss, because we realize that our well-being does not depend on material things. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor with access to immense wealth, reminded himself daily not to be ruled by luxury. He understood that material goods are temporary, and that attaching our happiness to them makes us fragile. If we define ourselves by our possessions, what happens when we lose them? What happens when trends change, when things break, or when we can no longer afford the lifestyle we once had? If our sense of self-worth is tied to material wealth, we will always live in fear of losing it. Detachment from material possessions does not mean rejecting money or success. It means understanding that wealth is a tool, not a source of identity or happiness. We can enjoy material things without being controlled by them. We can work hard, earn money, and provide for ourselves and our loved ones, but we must remember that our true value lies in our character, wisdom, and actions, not in what we own. By practicing this mindset, we free ourselves from the burden of comparison, greed, and insecurity. We become more grateful for what we have, more resilient in times of hardship, and more focused on what truly matters: our relationships, our purpose, and our inner peace. As Epictetus wisely put it, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Remembering the impermanence of life is one of the most profound Stoic practices, designed to cultivate gratitude, resilience, and a deep sense of purpose. The Stoics embraced the concept of memento mori, Latin for remember you must die, not as a morbid or depressing thought, but as a powerful reminder to live fully and wisely. By acknowledging that everything in life is temporary, our possessions, our relationships, our successes, and even our own existence, we free ourselves from fear, attachment, and regret. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, frequently reminded himself of life's fleeting nature. He wrote in Meditations, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This is not meant to create anxiety, but to sharpen our focus on what truly matters. When we recognize that time is limited, we stop wasting it on trivial concerns. We become less consumed by petty arguments, less obsessed with material gain, and less fearful of failure. Instead, we begin to prioritize the things that give life meaning: virtue, relationships, personal growth, and contributing to the greater good. Impermanence also helps us cope with loss and change. When we understand that nothing is permanent, we become less resistant to life's inevitable transitions. The loss of a loved one, the end of a career, the fading of youth. These are painful experiences, but they are also part of the natural order of life. The Stoics taught that instead of clinging to what is temporary, we should appreciate it while it lasts, and let go when the time comes. As Epictetus put it, never say of anything, "I have lost it, but I have returned it." This mindset helps us approach loss with grace rather than despair. Moreover, reflecting on impermanence deepens our gratitude. Too often, we take our daily lives for granted, assuming that we will always have more time to pursue our goals, express love, or enjoy simple moments. But when we recognize that everything is temporary, we begin to cherish the present. A conversation with a friend, a sunset, or a quiet moment alone becomes more meaningful because we understand that it will not last forever. Rather than fearing the passage of time, the Stoics teach us to embrace it. Death is not an enemy to be avoided, but a reality to be acknowledged. When we accept our mortality, we stop delaying our lives. We stop saying, "I'll do it someday," and instead, we take action now. We become more courageous, more intentional, and more at peace. By remembering the impermanence of life, we learn to detach from what we cannot control, appreciate what we have while we have it, and live each day with purpose. As Seneca wisely said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." The key to inner peace is not to fear the end, but to make the most of every moment we are given. Responding rather than reacting is a fundamental Stoic principle that cultivates emotional stability, wisdom, and inner peace. In life, we will constantly face situations that test our patience, challenge our beliefs, or provoke strong emotions. How we handle these moments determines our sense of control and well-being. Reacting is impulsive. It is driven by emotion, without thought or reflection. Responding, on the other hand, is intentional. It is guided by reason, self-awareness, and virtue. The Stoics understood that external events do not have power over us. What matters is how we interpret and respond to them. Epictetus put it simply, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When we react impulsively, we often let emotions like anger, fear, or frustration dictate our actions. We might lash out in anger at a rude comment, panic in a stressful situation, or let criticism ruin our day. But when we take a moment to pause and reflect, we give ourselves the space to choose a rational and constructive response. A key Stoic practice is developing the ability to pause before reacting. When faced with a difficult situation, instead of acting immediately, we can take a deep breath and ask ourselves, "Is this worth my energy? What is the wisest response? How would my best self handle this?" This moment of reflection helps us avoid saying or doing something we may later regret. Instead of being controlled by emotion, we take control of our own behavior. For example, if someone insults us, our natural reaction might be to insult them back or feel hurt. But if we respond instead of react, we recognize that their words have no real power unless we allow them to. We might choose to ignore the insult, respond calmly, or even find humor in the situation. By doing this, we maintain our peace of mind and avoid unnecessary conflict. Similarly, when unexpected problems arise, whether in our personal lives or at work, reacting with frustration or panic only makes things worse. Instead, a Stoic takes a step back, assesses the situation rationally, and responds with a clear mind. This ability to remain calm under pressure is what separates those who are controlled by their emotions from those who master them. Over time, practicing this principle makes us more resilient. We become less easily triggered by minor inconveniences, less swayed by the opinions of others, and more confident in our ability to handle challenges. By responding instead of reacting, we take ownership of our emotions and actions, leading to a deeper sense of inner peace and self-control. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. By training ourselves to pause, reflect, and respond with wisdom, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering and become the masters of our own lives. Serving others and contributing to the greater good is a fundamental Stoic principle that brings meaning, fulfillment, and inner peace. The Stoics believed that true happiness does not come from selfish pursuits or personal gain, but from living in harmony with others and making a positive impact on the world. A life devoted only to oneself is an empty life, while a life dedicated to service and contribution is one of deep purpose and satisfaction. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, often reminded himself that he was not just an individual, but part of a larger society. He wrote, "What is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bee." This means that our well-being is connected to the well-being of others. If we act only out of self-interest, we may achieve temporary success, but we will lack true fulfillment. However, when we use our skills, resources, and time to help others, we create a life of lasting value. Stoicism teaches that we are all part of a greater whole, a family, a community, a society, and ultimately humanity itself. Each of us has a role to play in making the world better, whether in small everyday actions or through larger contributions. Being kind to a stranger, helping a friend in need, mentoring someone, or working to improve our communities are all ways to live according to Stoic virtue. Service to others also helps us shift our focus away from personal struggles. When we get caught up in our own problems, we can become consumed by worry, frustration, or self-doubt. But when we turn our attention outward and ask, "How can I help? How can I make a difference?" we break free from the cycle of self-centered thinking. We realize that our struggles are not unique, that others face difficulties as well, and that we have the power to bring comfort and support. Seneca, another great Stoic philosopher, encouraged generosity, not just in terms of money, but in wisdom, kindness, and time. He believed that giving should be done without expectation of reward, because the act of helping itself is enough. "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness," he wrote. This reminds us that service is not just about grand gestures, but also about everyday acts of compassion. Serving others does not mean neglecting ourselves or allowing others to take advantage of us. It means living with a sense of duty and recognizing that we are all interconnected. It means acting with justice, fairness, and kindness, even when it is not convenient. It means leaving the world a little better than we found it. By committing to the greater good, we align ourselves with something larger than our personal desires. We gain a sense of purpose that goes beyond material success. We develop stronger relationships, build communities based on trust and cooperation, and cultivate a deep sense of inner peace. When we serve others with sincerity, we fulfill our highest potential, not just as individuals, but as members of the human family. In the end, the path to inner peace is not found in chasing external success, avoiding challenges, or controlling everything around us. It is found within. By embracing Stoic principles, we learn to master our emotions, accept what we cannot change, and focus on what truly matters. Life will always be unpredictable, but our mindset is within our control. When we choose to respond with wisdom, live with virtue, and serve a purpose greater than ourselves, we cultivate a deep and unshakable peace. So I challenge you, start today. Practice gratitude, embrace obstacles, and live with intention. The power to transform your life is already in your hands. Make the choice to rise above circumstances and become the master of your mind. Because in the end, true strength is not about avoiding hardship, but about facing it with courage, clarity, and unwavering peace.